Hey boys and girls, Chief Spookz here. Just bringing you a quick look at how jungling has changed in League of Legends since the introduction of the Season 6 patch. This guide's powered by Nvidia, and it's just taking a look at the most powerful junglers in the meta at the moment, the most popular runes and masteries, and how the new item changes have affected the jungle. Make sure you guys check out the Chief's ESC website /guides for a more in-depth look. So my jungle tier list tier 1 champions obviously include Nidalee, Mundo and Kindred. The reason being, all three of these champions, particularly in solo queue, have the ability to carry from the jungle, especially mid to late game, which a lot of the jungle champions actually struggle to do. Early on they have a lot of jungle clear, they're very versatile in the way that they can gank, and they all scale very well, as I said before. Kindred, obviously new addition. Her ulti makes her very powerful, and obviously just being an AD carry late game helps your team shred tanks down. Mundo just has absurd scaling because he's just a massive frontline tank who can deal a lot of damage. Nidalee doesn't scale as well as the other two, but she definitely has the ability to do a lot of damage and bring a lot of utility through her heal and team fights. And in the tier 2 list, there's a lot of common champions you would have seen from last season that have reappeared as popular champs, particularly Elise and Rek'Sai. Right now are very popular still. Lee Sin, he's seeing quite a lot of play. So yeah, obviously all three of those are still very solid. The new additions, however, on this patch, Graves and Poppy. Obviously the Poppy rework has made her very strong, and the reason why she is quite highly prioritized is because of her ability to be flexed across top, jungle and support. She's just a very strong tank. Her ganks are pretty good, her clear's pretty good. I wouldn't quite put her in tier 1, but she is a very strong champion at the moment, and particularly from my experience very good in solo queue. Similar to Graves, Graves similar to Kindred, has the ability to clear very fast, and his ganks are very strong. He's kind of appeared on this patch with his rework as well, and he's just very solid all around, has the ability to scale and do extremely well early game. This is your fairly standard AP jungle rune page. You're most likely to see it on champions like Elise, Echo, Zac or Gragas. Generally when you're building a rune page as a jungler, you're looking to opt for runes that are most likely to help your clear, which is why you'll see a lot of just flat combat stats like attack speed, ability power and AD. So yeah, that's why you kind of have this very standard page which will help your clear. The reason for this is that, obviously if you can clear faster, you can create more pressure on the map through ganks, you don't take as much damage from camps. So there's not too much to talk about other than that, but you can possibly look to opt for other options if you like Hybrid Pen on Elise for example is quite good to amplify your ganks, or CDR blues are quite strong as well, but this is as I said before, your very standard AP jungle page. Similar to what I said before, junglers want to opt into flat stats that will help them clear faster and create early pressure with their ganks. So for Nidalee, you'll want to opt into obviously physical damage for your marks, and then AP blues and quints, which is the best flat combat stats you can get to do that. Obviously the army yellows are going to help you sustain through your jungle clear, and this is, I guess, the most standard page you can take right now on Nidalee, and most effective page I would say as well. This is your fairly typical, what I call jungle AD carry page. The reason you would take attack speed over flat AD like a champion like Lee Sin would opt for is that AD carries scale very well with attack speed obviously, and it increases their clear. Kindred for example, the more attacks you get off, the more use you make out of your passive. So this is definitely my standard AD carry jungle page, and I feel it's the best to help with clearing, ganking, and all the typical early things you want to be doing as a jungler. This is pretty much your standard tanky mastery page for junglers, particularly Zac and Mundo, who you'll see most commonly right now. The points in ferocity help you with your early clear, as well as give you a little bit of oomph on your ganks. The points in resolve are quite standard. I would definitely consider taking swiftness over legendary guardian, particularly on Mundo if they have a lot of CC. It stacks really well with swifties, which are very common right now. Also on Zac, I would probably opt for insight over perseverance, because you don't really need the health regen as much. But Mundo obviously does want to stack health regen. That's what makes him quite strong. But yeah, this page obviously is just to help you with your clear, and just give you that insane tankiness that stacks with Cinderhulk. And once you get, your Dead Man's Plate and your Spirit Visage, you just become that hyper tank that's insanely hard to deal with late game. This is probably your most typical mastery page at the moment across all of my jungle champion pool, aside from Mundo and Zac, who opt for the more defensive tree. The reason being is the Thunderlord's Keystone is actually the strongest relevant to the other ones. There's not too much to talk about. This clear is very good for your early jungle sustain and clear, as well as your early ganks. I just wanted to discuss a little bit about some of my favorite jungle items on this patch. Firstly, Boots of Swiftness are definitely the boot of choice at the moment. They're just extremely gold efficient with only the 500 gold upgrade, and even the slow resist is really helpful. It's not really worth considering any other boots at the moment, to be honest, unless you're playing something like Nidalee, who might opt for lucidity boots, or Zac, who, because of his reliance on elastic slingshot, would probably opt into Tabby or Mercs. Secondly, I'm going to talk about Hex Drinker, which has always been a really efficient and solid item to build, but now that they've made more, or they've changed more, your build pathing when going Hex Drinker isn't as awkward mid to late game, so it's a really, really good item at the moment. And lastly, Sterak's Gauge, which is probably my favorite item on this patch. I'm just in love with the proc, and it's just kind of like the ideal stats for a lot of the jungle pool. Particularly, I've noticed on Rek'Sai, Kindred and Graves to be a really, really good item at the moment. So in this clip, I wanted to highlight how I kind of plan out my early jungle pathing. Obviously, you kind of want to think about which lanes are best to gank. In this case, I've been Lissandra versus a very immobile Ryze. Lissandra obviously has a lot of CC and a nice gap closer, and Ryze is obviously going to struggle to get away from that CC. Secondly, I need to think about which lane I want to get ahead, or which lane do I want to keep down. In this case, keeping Ryze down is obviously important because he's a champion that can snowball very hard. So what I do is I kind of emphasize using vision control through the pink ward in River to repeat gank Ryze and get him very far behind early on in the game. Thanks for checking out my guide, guys. Feel free to post any questions on the written guide and I'll do my best to reply to them. You can find my guide at chiefsesc.com/guides.